Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. This is a past episode taken from my podcast. I'm slowly moving my entire episode library to YouTube. Now, just as a heads up, there's no editing on these. You may hear me out of breath, traffic going by, and occasionally me tripping. It's literally just me talking in my phone while I'm walking around my neighborhood at night like a crazy person. Wonder what the neighbors think of that. Anyway, the episode info can be found in the description. With all that said, enjoy the show. Thank you so much for listening. Please like and subscribe.
Good evening. What's going on, everybody? This is Tanner from TanmanBaseballFan.com. It is Tuesday, October 15th, and I am once again on my walk that I take at night. And so, of course, as always, I apologize for this not being professional quality. Again, one of the appealing things to me about this medium is I don't have to plan. I don't have to sound professional. I don't even know if this is really considered a podcast. It's really just me talking for 10, 15, 30 minutes about whatever I please, I guess, whenever it comes to baseball cards or garage sales or down the road entrepreneurship. Just whatever kind of tickles my fancy. So hope, I guess what I really want is I want to bring value to you if you're listening to this. So tonight what I'm going to talk about is let me see what I want to talk about first. We'll do this on the fly together. So I think what we're going to talk about is how to make money with baseball cards. Might do this as a two-parter, so we'll see how it goes. But to start out with, I'll go ahead and kind of tell you where I want to go with this first. So we're going to look at making money with our own collections, because there's two things. Number one, you can look at this as how can I make money with my own collection? And number two, how can I look at making money by buying other cards? So I think what we want to do is we want to start off with the cards that's in our collections that we already have. So that way there's no initial investment up front. Like, you could literally make some money right now with your cards. And so I kind of want to help walk you through this so that way you can kind of turn your collection from just like mix match of cards that you pulled from packs to this, that, the other, to like this powerhouse of a collection that you just love, that you just have every single card that you enjoy the heck out of. So it is my long-held belief that it is better to have 10 cards that you are absolutely in love with as opposed to 10 boxes of cards that you don't give a rip about. So that's kind of my starting point here, my introduction, if you will, into this podcast. So, which, by the way, I made up on the fly while I was on here with you. So we'll go ahead and get started. I'll tell you kind of a little bit about what I've done in the past. I've written about it before on my website and on the forums, but ultimately, back I think about 2005 or so, there were a couple of hurricanes that hit this area and Louisiana. So Hurricane Katrina hit Louisiana, Hurricane Rita hit us. And we were without power. And by the way, I had been out of the hobby at that point for probably 11, 12 years or so. And I had my collection, my childhood collection, from, when I was a kid, obviously, which is why I said it was my childhood collection. Like I said, see that, y'all? It's not polished at all. I'm just going to talk. I'm just going to talk through this stuff and post it live when I'm done. But anyway, my childhood collection was in my closet for the longest time. And if we'd move, I'd haul the boxes from place to place. And I remember pulling out my cards, because I don't think we had any electricity at this point because of the hurricane. And I said, that'd be kind of interesting. I'm I look through my baseball cards again, and like I hadn't even thought about those things all that much for like over a decade, right? And so I pulled them out, and I pulled out my binder of Jose Canseco cards in a little box I had with the doubles, and brought them downstairs. And I just remember going, man, I love these. This is so cool. And it brought back so many memories, like so many memories came flooding in. So anyways, later on, if you've read my book, you probably know how part of this goes, but my mother-in-law and sister-in-law came in, and they come in, they were doing something with us at the house, and my sister-in-law looks at the table. There I am, like probably, I don't know, 25 years old, 25-year-old man in the midst of all these Jose Canseco baseball cards. And she looks at me, she goes, wow, man crush much? And I felt like this, like embarrassment, like I almost had to like explain to her what I was doing. And it's so funny. I think she was probably like 15 at that point. So it's so funny. But anyways, after that, I started realizing, man, she kind of caught me red-handed. Not just about the Canseco cards, but about baseball cards in general. So as you probably have experienced as well, once you get back into the hobby, it kind of doesn't let go of you. So I started looking on eBay, and I found these complete sets, and I had like this goal to have like every single complete set of baseball cards from the time I was born, 1980, to when I stopped collecting, which was 92 or 93. I picked up a few things in 93 and 94, I guess, but really 92 and 93 was probably the end of me heavily collecting. So I started, and I was super excited because like the 1988 Score Rookie and Traded set that used to be $80 or whatever was now like 20 or something. And the 83 Top set that used to be 150 was now 30 or 40. And a lot of these sets, of course, 88 Donruss, 89 Tops, all those were like $2 sets, but the shipping, of course, would be like $12. And so it's kind of a weird, surreal feeling. But the problem is after doing that, I started to take notice of other cards that they're offering. And they're offering these cards that were called game used cards. And so back then, when I came in, it was like, holy crap, what are these things? Like, they actually have pieces of jersey that the baseball players on the cards themselves were wearing in a game, and they're embedded in the card. Like, that was foreign to me. Like, I don't know, it felt like some sort of like a futuristic alien kind of technology. Like, they're overdoing it, but I loved it. And so what I did ultimately is I started buying them. And I kept buying them. I couldn't stop buying them. And so I go, oh man, after a while, it didn't matter. It could have been like Tim Hudson or Jason Giambi or, Nick Asaski, I don't know, Randy Myers, Sid Bream. It didn't matter. I wanted to get all of them. And I set like a limit, like as long as it was under $2, it had my name on it. And so I found out pretty quickly that, once you get like 1,000 of those suckers, it's not really meaningful. And so I started feeling buyer's remorse, which it happens to me quite a bit whenever I get sucked into something and I don't have a level head about myself on it. And so I said, man, I got to start selling these things. And so I started thinking, man, did I just waste a bunch of money for nothing? And I almost felt sick that I did it. So I looked at him, I looked at the sets that I had, and I said, man, I just got to sell everything. I want to sell my childhood collection too. I just don't want to be part of this anymore. And because it's just a huge money suck. So what I did is I started selling them, and I found something pretty quickly about myself, that I actually enjoy the process. I liked sorting them into teams, and I think I said this in my garage sale podcast session. Sales cures all. When you start selling things, you instantly feel better. And so I started making a spreadsheet, especially these game use cards, And I'd say like, okay, I've got 1,000 of them. I averaged them out for $2 each. And then if I sold 100 of them for $2.25, I could say, well, the other 900 I have about $1.80 into each. And then I kept doing that for several months, until I got to where I had 100 left or 200 left, and or they were basically free. And so that gave me pause. I stopped and I looked back and I said, if I can make money on this, why would I stop collecting? I enjoy collecting. I just don't like wasting money. So I think this is going to be some advice that'll be applicable to you in your collection, because it'll help you a lot also, I think, because nobody wants to have a hobby that just sucks all the extra cash that you have and then some out of you. So ultimately, I did end up selling a lot of my childhood collection, almost all of it actually. And at that point, I started, and everything that I bought, like the sets, the game use cards, the autographs, everything. But I turned around and I started buying things that I thought I could make money off of. So because I've been down this road, I wanted to kind of help you out if you have a collection right now that you don't know how to sell it and you're not like in love with it. So hopefully this will help you a little bit. So what I want you to do is I want you to think about what your collection is right now. Do you have a box of commons? Do you have a box of singles that you think are valuable but you don't really care about? Start thinking about these things. And then the other question is the firehouse question. And that question is this: if your house caught on fire and you could only take a handful of cards, maybe like put a number on it. So let's say 10 cards, 25 cards, 50 cards, whatever it is. If you could only keep those cards, what would they be? And as a follow-up question, how would you feel if those other cards burned up? Would you be upset? Would you not care a whole lot? Where would your heart be at? Where would your mind be at? Would you be like just really raving mad, or would you just be thankful that you brought the cards, got to keep the cards that you saved initially? That was like the handful or something. So what that does, and it's aside from just being a fun exercise, it is something that is very helpful to prioritize in your collection what you love versus what you don't care about. And so what I would argue is it's probably best to get rid of the cards that didn't make your list, your firehouse list. So let's say you have left over a couple $100 worth of cards, a couple $1,000 worth of cards, $20,000 worth of cards. It doesn't matter, whichever it is. But once you're able to determine what you can live with getting rid of and what you really, really, really want to keep, then from there you can actually start the process of selling. So I know that it's very difficult sometimes to determine what that is, what it is that you would want to sell. So, or really not just what you want to sell at that point, because we've already figured it out, but more of like how much you want to sell it for. And so the main question that you have to ask right after that is, how much money can I get out of these cards that I don't want anymore? So it's super easy, and I've talked to a lot of people that have gone down this road and they've just started, and unfortunately the number one thing that stops them from actually selling at a proper price is overpricing what they have. So they put it on the market and nobody buys. They go, what the heck? Why is my 1982 Topps Cal Ripken Jr. that has a book value of $40 not selling for $40? I don't understand. So what you need to do is you need to start looking at how much cards have actually sold for. And so the way you do that is, one way you can go to www.cardsnoop.com, and you could type in whatever you want. And also, I just found out something that's kind of cool. is if you have a seller's account on eBay, you might want to research this a little bit. I think it gives you a free access to TerraPeek, which allows you to see what cards have sold for as well. So for your 82 tops Ripken that's booking for $40, you might go on cardsnoop.com and find out that it typically is only going for $12. And so that right there takes a big readjustment of your expectations, which is a good thing. It's a necessary thing. So my recommendation before you get into this is understand that your cards might be worth way, way, way less than half of what you think they're worth. And be okay with getting the market value for them, because, listen, you don't want to start off this journey by getting flustered with what you can or cannot sell for whatever price you got out of everything to begin with. Like if you bought that Ripken for $40 several years ago and you can only get 12 out of it now, don't just hang on to it if you don't love it. There's no reason to. So my recommendation to you, sell it for the $12. Put that $12 into something that you really like, or save up, or whatever you want to do. So that's my recommendation to you for those. Now, I will tell you another pitfall that comes along with this method as well is when you start doing this, there's going to be a lot of work involved, especially if you have a very, very large collection. So a lot of people simply do not have the time or energy to put in on eBay, taking pictures of every single little card and posting them online and then waiting, because it's a waiting game after that, right? You're not the only one with the 1982 Topps Cal Ripken Jr. card for $12 out there. There's a lot of them out there. So what I have found to be very helpful is to group cards in lots and put them on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or the Facebook groups or Twitter. The more, and on the forums, by the way, also Blowout. I found that the more places that you put cards for sale, the quicker you'll get them sold. And it's just because ultimately you're reaching more eyeballs. So, you don't want to limit yourself just to eBay or something. So anyways, one thought would be to sell them in lots. So if you have a box of lower end cards, sell the entire box. Don't worry about getting every single last penny that you can out of it. Move them for a price that you feel fairly comfortable with. That way you have the money to go forward and save up for something that you really, really like. And I think that's probably the path to having a collection that's meaningful, that's enjoyable, that's something that you love, as opposed to just saying, oh, forget it, I'm just going to keep these and do whatever. Well, I mean, it's kind of like free cash there, because if you don't have any cards that you don't care about or don't want to keep, then I think you're ahead of the game, regardless of how much you would put into them already. Because remember, a lot of times when it comes to these cards, if you sold or if you bought that Ripken for $40, it's probably never going to go back up to $40. So there's no real reason to hang on to it just because you have that money in on it. Because remember also, if you can only get $12 out of it, that's a $28 loss. Well, guess what? A year or two from now, you could probably get another Ripken for $12 if you wanted. So, just think about that. So another problem that I know that people have is they don't know when to start selling. And that was for me. Like I stayed away from selling on eBay for years because I wanted to get everything right. Like, when's the best time to sell? The best day, the best part of the evening? Do I do auctions? Do I do buy it now, best offer? So there's just a lot of stuff to go through. And so I experienced paralysis by analysis. And what that means is there's so much stuff that I wanted to look at and dive into, I didn't do anything. So my recommendation to you would be to just do it. Just dive in head first and go for it. Now, my recommendation as well, I want to give you some tactical pieces of advice as well here. I would not start a bunch of super common cards at a penny for a 7-day auction because a lot of these cards are not really going to go for much. So my recommendation for you is probably what I normally do, which is if a card is worth $10 or more, generally speaking, I will almost always put it for a buy it now or best offer. So that way it'll just, sit in your store until somebody buys it. You don't have to worry about a $10 card selling for 72 cents because all of its potential buyers were focused on these other cards. Because that's no fun. You never want to, sell a $40 card for $4 or whatever. So I like the idea of pricing them a little bit higher so there's a little bit of room to negotiate. Now there is a little bit of a sweet spot that I want to let you know about as well. Like if you have, let's say a $200 card that you want to sell, and it normally goes for $200, consider putting it for $225 or best offer. And field some offers, or you might get lucky and have somebody buy it for $225. Now, and especially when it comes to like one of ones or something, But one thing you do not want to do is put a $200 card up for $1,000. Number one, because it's just wrong to take 5 times the money out of somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. But number two, it's going to become a garage ornament on eBay at that point. And so once a rare card that's more expensive stays on eBay, it becomes stale, and the freshness and excitement of the card goes away for a lot of people that might have been watching it since day one. So you don't want to just keep it on there forever hoping to squeeze every little last penny out of it. My recommendation would be to put it for a bit higher, so that way you can field some offers and hopefully get lucky to get a little more than the last few sales. But anyway, so that's kind of my recommendation to, as far as tactically listing things. I never do auctions myself personally. I just don't ever do it. I know a lot of people do, and they have success, and maybe that's a little more of an advanced move for a lot of folks. So if you're just getting into this, maybe don't. But anyway, so as far as the commons that you have, you might want to put those on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist. So let's say you have a box or 10 boxes of commons that are just like taking up garage or closet space, and your wife is just griping at you for having this stuff. That's getting rid of them locally is a great way of doing it. Try $10 a box, $5 a box, $20 a box, whatever. But it's better to have that money in your pocket to do what you really want with it, as opposed to just having commons, because I don't think many people want commons in their collection unless that's what you're going for. If you love putting together sets and that sort of thing, then that's an entirely different thing in and of itself. So now if you're, on the other hand, on a mission to collect only cards that you like that are higher end, get rid of those things, and work on something meaningful. So and that's really kind of all there is to it. It's really just kind of, number one, determining what you want to keep and what you want to sell, and number two, actually listing the cards that you want to sell, and number three, having a good understanding of what the market will bring for those cards. So I told you again what the tools are for that. Cardsnoop.com. You can look up what cards have gone for in the past, like that 82 Topps Ripken. So that way you can appropriately price your cards. Number 4, lower end cards. Consider grouping them together and sell them that way. And number 5, the higher end cards, sell them as singles, but don't put them too high. Try to find a sweet spot so that way you can give yourself the best possibility of making some money and getting as good of a price as you can on them. So that's really it. So at the end of the day, what should happen is you should have taken your collection that may or may not be 90 to 95% of cards that you don't really care about at all, and defining what you like, and selling those, and coming up with just the cards that you want to keep, along with a pocket full of cash that you could do something with that's very meaningful for your collection. So that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you for listening. I really do hope that you can like, subscribe, and share this podcast. And if I remember my train of thought for tomorrow night or the next night or wherever I do this again, I think we will go into figuring out how to spot deals and how to buy cards to make money. So what we're talking about tonight is more defense. We're going to go into the offense the next time. Thank you guys. Don't forget to buy my book, Confessions of a Baseball Card Addict, available on Amazon. It's for sale for $9.95 right now. I'm very accessible online. You can hit me up at TanmanBBFan on Twitter. Email is tanmanbaseballfan@gmail.com. And website is tanmanbaseballfan.com. Thank you again for listening. Hope you all have a great night.